Hi, how's it going?
Hey, how's it going, man?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much for taking the time to do this interview.
All right, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
I'm glad to be able to do it and talk about some amazing brand new music that's soon to be coming out with this self-titled debut from Arc of Life coming out February 12th through Frontiers Music. I've gotten the chance to be able to check this out over the last few days, and I just love what's going on here. I just love seeing the creativity that's going on throughout here, the song structures, the vocal abilities that's going on. I mean, this just feels like a great album, and it's great to be able to see this seeing the light of day.
Right on, man. Well, I appreciate that. You hit on very things that are important to me anyway, which is interesting structures in the song arrangements and great vocals and all those things. So I'm glad you're digging it.
Oh, absolutely. So, with that in mind, like, how did this all come together?
When we were on a Yes tour in 2017, John Davison and I shared a bus, and I had my studio in the back, and there were instruments lying around, and we were just wanted to write for fun, and that evolved into thinking about taking it to a higher level after we had a couple of songs developed, and then we started talking about, well, what if this was a band and who would be in it? And of course, Jay Shellen's a very good friend of mine, and he plays with Yes as well. So he was kind of an obvious choice. And Jimmy Hahn, who is in Circa and Conspiracy, and my first band Logic, we're old friends. He's a great guitar player. So we brought him on board. And Dave Kersner, who's an artist in his own right, doing his own solo career, and he has his own band, Sound of Contact. And we've been threatening to do something forever, so I called him up and said, I think this might be it. What do you think? So then we had the band, and we worked on the record for a couple of years, from 2017 through 2019, basically. And here we are today, just kind of with this release date, and ready to get on the road. But once there's a road to get on.
Oh, definitely. So, with that in mind, I mean, obviously, with getting everyone together and wanting to form a band, did you know what direction you wanted to go into immediately, or did that come later?
Well, the writing is where it all starts. In any band I've been in, it starts with the writing, and it sets a tone for a project. And pretty quickly if you're writing and those things don't connect from song to song, that it's feeling more like songwriting and individualized. But when it starts meshing together and feeling good as a whole, you're on your way to a band thing. That's how I've always looked at it. And so that's where it really started from, was the songwriting that we did and getting the ball rolling in that regard. And that set the tone for what we knew we want to do.
Oh, and that's such a great thing that it actually did have that connection going on. I mean, having that musical chemistry is so important when you get everyone in the band working together and the songs feel right and everything feels like it's a collective together. And that's such a
Yeah.
great feeling, especially when you're first starting out.
Yeah, and you want it to feel like a band. That's what it's about when you're in a band. It's not this mechanized machine. It's human beings playing off of each other, and getting inspired by what you're playing, and then that makes them play something, and so on. And it's a big part of what we do, is that emotional contact. A musician to musician.
Oh, and you can definitely hear that throughout the entire album too. I mean, there's so many great peaks and valleys, and such a great ebb and flow throughout the entire album. And it's great to see that was connecting on such a cylinder like that too. Because I mean, that's what makes an album really stand out, is when you have that personal connection to it throughout the entire band, and when it comes back and hits into the listener as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the experience is almost like, as you put your headphones on, you're sitting there watching the band play it, as a whole piece, just playing the album. And so that's kind of how we wanted it to be presented. And that's how I like all the bands I'm into presented, where it's really about the songwriting and the craft of making that record.
Oh, very much so. So thinking about that again, I mean, when you finally realize that the chemistry is going in the right direction and it is starting to feel like a full on band or project. I mean, was there a particular riff or a particular song where it did strike everyone, knowing that it was going in the right direction?
No, I mean, I think the first few songs we were working on were Therefore We Are, Talking with Siri, and one other one that escapes me. And we kind of knew from working on those songs, and, obviously when we called the other guys to jump in, we played them what we had, and they heard it, were very inspired to get involved and move it along. So it kind of, just the feeling of what we wanted to do was there, coming out of the speakers and just sort of guiding us where to go, really.
Oh, again, that's so great to be able to see that, and knowing that the other guys were so inspired by what you had so far, and then with them being able to add their touches to it to create all of this. I mean, it's so great to be able to see that that connection happening and the songwriting throughout happening, and especially with how busy all of you guys are. I mean, it's great to see that you were able to make that dedicated time to make this happen as well.
Well, I mean, fortunately, we're all busy in fairly the same kinds of lanes. I mean, myself, John, and Jay were, are playing with Yes, so we have a close proximity by proxy of that. And I live in Los Angeles, where Jimmy lives, and Dave lives on the East Coast in Florida. But yeah, it's a camaraderie. It's kind of a band of brothers, and we enjoy each other's company, and we enjoy the challenge of playing challenging music and challenging each other.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what I love so much about Yes, and what I love hearing with Arc of Life is, it's the riffs and the song progression and the songwriting. I mean, it does come off so beautifully. And when you really dissect the songs, you can start to hear that complication that's really going in there from different time signatures and different keys and everything that goes into it. So every time that you start to listen to the music, you just start to discover more and more about the music.
Yeah, you kind of look at the geometry of it a little more after you've heard it the first time. There's a lot there that make up the whole and how that works, and there's a lot of Lego parts to it. That's for sure.
Absolutely. So again, with the album finally coming out on February 12th, I mean, obviously we're living in very strange times right now, and of course, all of last year was pretty much like a black mark on live music in general. I mean, how does it feel to have this album coming out in the times that we're in right now?
Well, I'm a eternal optimist, and we've been in this darkness for a long time, and now with the vaccine coming, and my state and here in California as of the weekend is bringing back outdoor dining. So these are small victories in the right direction, and I think that there's light at the end of this tunnel. So I'm an optimist when it comes to that kind of stuff, and just looking forward to doing it as soon as possible. Safely and as soon as possible.
Oh, absolutely. And I really feel within the last week I feel a lot more optimistic about everything that's been going on, and knowing the direction of the vaccines and the new one that's coming out next month as well, and everything
Yeah.
going forward. I mean, I hope eventually people do realize that the vaccines are going to work and we will be able to get back to some kind of normalcy, because I'd love to be able to see Yes getting back out there and playing live, and if at all possible, seeing Arc of Life being able to do a show depending on the time schedules.
Yeah, well, fortunately for us, we're managed by the same company who manage Yes, and so they have a grip on the scheduling. And Yes is obviously the mothership, but there's satellites that break off of that mothership and take flight. I mean, Jeff Downs has got a great record with Chris Braid's out right now, and Steve Howe's got his trio, and Alan White has his white band, and I've had Conspiracy in the past and other things. So Circa. So it's kind of funny to see those satellites, how many there are that come off the mothership, but the mothership's always up there. So I'm sure there's time for both.
Oh yeah, and that's another reason I do love what happens with Yes, is because you're not afraid to be able to work with other musicians and work on other kinds of bands and projects as well too, because I feel it is so important to be able to work with all different types of musicians and being able to work on different kinds of styles of songwriting, because I think that it can only benefit you in the long run.
Well, yeah, I mean, as a musician, just speaking for myself, who, I love music. I love to wake up and work on music. So there's time to do things. And it's just a matter of, how you want to spend your time. And, you know, I've never been in just one band because there's time to do other things. And that's just kind of how I am, and others are the same way. So there's all of these, you had Genesis and Mike and the Mechanics, and there's a lot of that goes on in the industry. I think it's just based on a desire to make music and be prolific and keep going and getting better at what you do.
Oh, for sure. And and with that, I mean, with last year putting a halt on so many things, I mean, what have you been able to do when it comes to that? I mean, have you had any more song ideas or anything that's happened throughout the last year?
Well, I mean, there's another record that I have called Frog Collective that's coming out, and that is a collection of songs with other guest artists on it. It's more of a project kind of thing. It's the third in the series of those records, so that's coming out, and I'm working on all other kinds of things as well. Right now, I'm laser focused on Arc of Life because we really just want to see this thing get out there on the road. So kind of keeping my ear to the ground and seeing when the soonest that would be possible. Obviously, it's going to take a little time to get that rolling, but other than that, just kind of working on various projects in the studio, which I always do, and do sessions. I'm currently working on a song with David Page from Toto that he's putting on his solo album that my brother sang the lead vocal on, and he's asked me in on it. So I do all kinds of different sessions that just pop up randomly.
Oh, definitely, and it's great to see that you're in that position to be able to do all of that as well too. I mean, being able to do that from home or a local studio if that's close. The fact that we live in that kind of world where we can record from home, we can record remotely, and being able to make session work like that, and especially in pandemic times, it's cool to see that.
Yeah, and it also, I think it speeds up the process of making music too. Just in general. So there's even more time to do things. So, and I'm a workaholic, so I just love making music. And in this digital age where you can file share and make contact with anyone you're looking for, it's quite a cool experience.
Oh, it really is. And I'm glad to see that focus on Arc of Life too, because as I've mentioned before, this is such a great debut, and I can't wait to see what happens with this album, see others' reactions, and the project and band going forward as well too. With this being the debut and how it's come out, I just feel like the ideas for the next release are gonna. I'm really excited to see which directions you go in.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of interesting because the record was on purposely made to start pretty straight ahead, for the lack of a better word. And then as the record goes, by the time you get to the end, it's flowered open to this kind of quite, epic feeling thing that's like this finale to the record. So anything's possible to take it from there and go, and we're all committed to doing that. So it's definitely something that's going to happen.
Oh, fantastic. And another thing that I do love about this album is not just musically what's going on, but visually as well too. Because I love the artwork; it just looks so magnificent. I love the use of the colors. I love how everything looks together like that, and I think it's a great representation for the band, especially with the debut album. It just looks so perfect.
Yeah, it's a beautiful cover, and it fits the music because it's not really making a statement of any kind other than, the only thing that I thought is it feels like light at the end of the tunnel when you look at it, because you're kind of looking out of a dark cave in this beautiful thing. And so it reflects our times in a very bizarre, accidental way.
Yeah, and it's funny how that comes together because obviously that wasn't the intended purpose for the pandemic, but it's just like it does work on so many levels for people. I mean, whether it's eternal struggle, whether it's what's going on in the world right now. I mean, there's so many ways that you can look at that darkness and then seeing how beautiful it is on the outside, and yeah, it's such a great way to be able to look at that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like we took for granted what we used to do just every day, waking up and doing it. Now it's like it's just once we get back to, I mean, I've been thinking about it a lot, which is what is it going to feel like for that first concert back? You know what I mean? It's going to be tripping.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, of course, a lot of music has been trying to get rescheduled for this year for the live experience, and it's already seen the cancellations. And I imagine potentially end of the year or even into 2022 is when things might start up again. But that first time that you get to go out there and you get to see a live crowd in front of you, and when the first riff finally starts to come in, it's going to be such an unreal experience.
Yeah, I mean, I never really get nervous getting on stage, but I have a feeling that night will be nerve-wracking because it's been so long. It's like not playing tennis for years and then getting out there and the guy says, "Let me see you serve."
Oh, it's
But
so
I'm
true.
looking forward to it. So, in
Oh,
any event,
oh, definitely. Yeah, and again, going back into it, I mean, it's so great to see with the file sharing that you are able to keep busy, you're able to keep being inspired and keep working with everybody else, and seeing the way that Arc of Life has turned out, and everything that's going to be going forward with your other work and another release in the Pro Collective series. I mean, there's just so much that's going on in your world right now, and it's great to be able to see that too. I mean, I know some people haven't really been able to take advantage of what's going on, personally, whatever the cases are. But just seeing that workaholic mentality and starting to see the payoffs of it, especially with Arc of Life coming out in a couple weeks now, it's going to be great to see the other work that you're a part of coming out down the road as well, and just seeing what you've been up to during this whole time.
yeah. I mean, I'm always working on stuff, so there is always stuff coming out, and I mean, but I'm a producer, and that's what we have to do. That's as a career. The very meaning of produce is like just pull something out of thin air. So we'll see what we do. I just try to bring a level of artistic creativity to everything I do that makes it interesting for me to work on. And hopefully, when people hear that, they hear a spin on it that they weren't kind of ready for.
Oh, sure. And thinking about that as well too, I mean, obviously with the direction Arc of Life is going, I mean, it's very definitive of what that sound is. But when you're working on other work, I mean, what is it for you to be inspired by a track or a guest appearance or whatever the case is that makes you interested in wanting to be able to play on that song?
Um, well, I mean, I enjoy grabbing a guitar and playing. So if I have something to play and actually work on, then it's even better because I'm not just sitting there noodling on the guitar. I'm actually trying to create something unique for a track. So it's kind of get two sides of that sort of creative enjoyment and the idea of playing a guitar. Same goes for any instrument that I'm on. And the inspiration to sort of create just out of from a dead stop, if you will, is really just you get these waves of wanting to create something, and you might hear something. I hear stuff in my head, and I'll start humming the melody around as I'm walking around, and I'll run into the studio, which I have always plugged in and ready to go, and maybe I'll start something like that. Or I hear a drum groove in my mind and go in there and sort of lay that down, or grab a bass, and so it comes from different angles, but it's always a great thing to be able to play music. And I like the idea of not really playing music just to play it, but playing it creates something. So I'm always, whenever I'm playing, I'm recording. You know what I mean? If I'm playing something in the studio, I'm recording it. So the process goes one into the other in a very natural way.
Oh yeah, and of course, along with that, and something that is so important, at least I feel like that to me when it comes into songwriting, is the fact that you can play all these different instruments, you can sing, and you can know at this point like what's going to be inspiring to you, whether you want to start with a drum beat, whether you want to start with a guitar riff or a vocal pattern, whatever the case is. Like you're able to go to that instrumentation, record, and be able to build upon that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a bit like the Bob Ross approach to making music. Just put some paint on the canvas and move things around until you see something, and then start filling it in. You know what I mean? So that's kind of how I work. I just sort of I don't. When I was younger, honestly, I did write, and I wasn't as able to produce things as kind of quickly as I can now and get things into shape because I just was younger, and I would let things stop and block my creative process sort of mentally. And then I kind of got over that and just let things flow and find a way to just go with the flow, my own flow, and then record things and then come back and look at it later and decide, okay, this is worth pursuing, or maybe this part was cool, but that not so much. I'll re-overdub that. But it's always being recorded, these moments that I'm playing, and hopefully getting on a song or ending up somewhere on a project.
Oh, that's such a great way to be able to look at it too, like that Bob Ross approach, and just like you mentioned, being able to decide what works and what doesn't. I mean, it's so easy now to just say, "Oh, I'm going to put a bush here instead." It's now a bush.
Yeah, yeah. I know. And happy little accidents along the way. What can you
Absolutely.
do?
Oh, it. Again, it's just like it's really inspiring to hear the happiness that's coming through your voice right now, and hearing about Arc of Life, and knowing that you do have that optimism and being an optimist like that, because I really feel like we need to have more of that in the world right now. I mean, especially with the darkness that we've been through, we're still currently in, and not knowing where the light at the end of the tunnel is eventually going to be coming out. So when I can when I can talk to you and just hear that optimism that's coming through, when I can listen to Arc of Life and just be able to have a smile on my face the more that I start to discover more about the songs, I mean, it's such a great experience, and I can't wait for others to be able to feel that with this album on February 12th, because if it hit me like that, I know it's going to hit so many others like that.
Yeah, and I think too, we kind of live in an age where things happen in very small little units, if you will. I mean, it's a TikTok world, or people listen to snippets of music, 7 seconds, 10 seconds. But this kind of record is meant for, like, just relax, put your headphones on, and let it carry you away somewhere. And then once you've heard it, you're familiar with it, you listen to it in other ways. But if the first listening is with headphones, or somewhere relaxing, it's really quite a trip. There's a lot going on for your ears to take in.
Oh yeah, and I've had the pleasure to be able to do that too with headphones, and you can hear that full production that's going on there, and being able to hear little things that you might not have heard when you listen through bigger speakers or whatever the case is. I mean, it is the kind of album where you can go to all of these different playback devices and be able to hear it different ways, and I love that.
True. Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Well, I think that's a great spot to be able to end on. And I thank you so much for taking this time to be able to talk to me about everything that's going on in your world right now. So much to be looking forward to when it comes to your other endeavors. But, coming up now on February 12th, the self-titled debut from Arc of Life through Frontiers Music. I love what's going on here. It's just like a perfect album for what I need right now. I feel so good when I listen to this album, and I'm glad to see that that's coming through. I mean, you can tell that right from the album artwork, seeing that light at the end of the tunnel, just having that optimism, and I hear that throughout the music, and it's great to see that you are spreading that message musically, and from what you've told me about being optimistic and what to look forward to in the future, and I thank you very much for that.
Right on, man. Well, yeah, I hope that other people enjoy it in the same way you are, and get that same sort of spirit, because we certainly do need it. That's for sure.
Oh,
Thanks for
absolutely.
having me, though, man. I appreciate it.
Well, I'm glad to be able to do it. This has been a long time interview I've wanted to be able to do, and it's great to be able to see this with Arc of Life. I mean, it's been an absolute pleasure.
All right, man. Well, you take care. Thank you very much.
You as well. I hope you have a great rest of the day.
All right, you too. Ciao.
Yeah.